recommend a raise for 30 million Americans. And even if we weren't going to do it today, I wanted to make sure we made some progress. If you don't fight, you can't win. I also understood that for more than 40 years, workers' pay hadn't kept pace with inflation. Productivity had gone up, profits had gone up, executives had gotten raises. Couldn't we at least come together to make sure that people who did some of the hardest, dirtiest work in the nation got at least a chance to build a little security? And couldn't we also give this whole bipartisan thing another try? Since the 1930s, Republicans had joined Democrats to support periodic increases in the minimum wage. And now, after 4 years of holding steady, I thought we might come together for some kind of an increase. Okay, it probably wouldn't be as much as I wanted, but couldn't we at least do something? No. The Republicans were locked in. They would block any effort to increase the minimum wage by even a few nickels. The hearing produced some sharp back and forth about the impact that raising the minimum wage might have on jobs. The data are clear. Study after study shows that there are no large adverse effects on jobs when the minimum wage goes up. And one of the country's leading experts was sitting right in front of us, testifying to exactly that point. I battled a couple of the other witnesses, and I got in my licks about how far the real minimum wage had fallen. But after about an hour and a half, the hearing began winding down. I gathered up my papers, ready to leave as soon as the gavel fell. Lamar Alexander, the senator from Tennessee and the most senior Republican on the committee, was asking his last questions when a witness interrupted him to point out that Congress was responsible for setting the right level for the minimum wage. Senator Alexander replied that if he could decide, there would be no minimum. No minimum wage at all. Not $15, not $10, not $7.25, not $5, not $1. The comment was delivered quite casually. It wasn't a grand pronouncement shouted by a crazy hair-on-fire ideologue. Instead, a longtime U.S. senator stated with calm confidence that if an employer could find someone desperate enough to take a job for 50 cents an hour, then that employer should have the right to pay that wage and not a penny more. He might as well have said that employers could eat cake and the workers could scramble for whatever crumbs fall off the table. For just a blink, I wasn't in a heavily paneled Senate hearing room. I wasn't sitting at an elevated dais. I didn't have an aide seated behind me and cameras pointed my way. For just a blink, I was a skinny 16-year-old girl back in Oklahoma City. It was early in the fall, and I had just started my senior year of high school. By then, we were a small family. All that was left of us was Mother, Daddy, and me. My 3 older brothers had each in turn left for the military, gotten married, and were starting families of their own. Like every family, we'd had our ups and downs, but from my teenage perspective, life felt a little steadier again. Mother answered phones at Sears, and Daddy sold lawnmowers and fences. 2 paychecks. It had been a couple of years since the bill collectors had called or people had threatened to take away our home. Late at night, I no longer heard the muffled sounds of my mother crying. But it was still tough. There was no extra money, no breathing room. I waited tables and babysat. I picked up a few dollars sewing and ironing, although nothing regular. I was 16 and watching the world slip away. This was my last year of high school, and it looked like everyone at Northwest Classen had a future. Everyone except me. All my friends were talking about college. They went on nonstop as they compared schools and sororities and possible majors. No one seemed to worry about what it would cost. Me? I didn't have the money for a college application, much less tuition and books. Some days it seemed like college might as well have been on the moon. It was a miserable time in my life. One night, my mother and I had another fight about what I should do after high school. I look back now and realize that she was trying her best. She worked long hours, and she sometimes seemed stretched to the breaking point. On this one night, it all spun out of control. She'd been yelling at me.